Hey guys, Darren here. Today I saw a question in which somebody had a decimal number for the amount of minutes which had passed, and they wanted to convert that to a string for hour, minute, second. For example, if you look at the screen, on the left label I have 353.1, and that would convert to 5 hours, 53 minutes, and 6 seconds. So let's work up a formula that will convert a decimal time to hour, minute, second format. All right, let's add a slider to represent the decimal number. So go over here to the insert, and we'll go look for a slider to add. There it is. So add this, and let's make it take up the full width of the screen. There we go. All right, very good. So we'll set the max to 86,400. And that's how many seconds are in a day. All right, so let's set up the slider so that whenever the value is changed, it updates a context variable for this screen. So we have the slider selected. We're going to go up to Action, and we'll go to On Change. And inside the On Change, we're going to use the Update Context function. And inside the parentheses, we're going to have curly braces. And inside the curly braces, we're going to give it the name of the variable. So let's call it decimal time. And we'll use a colon. And after the colon, we're going to have the value. We'll reference the same control. So we'll use the keyword self.value. And we'll divide this value by 60. And the reason for that, whatever number is selected through the slider is the amount of seconds. And we need to divide it by 60 to get the minute decimal value. So just to see what that is, let's go ahead and add a label at the top. And we'll put it here in the middle. There we go. And we'll give it a border, and then we'll also display decimal time. We'll actually display that in this label. Go ahead and run it, and as I change this, you'll see that the amount of minutes is displayed in that label there. Now, if we keep running it up, you'll see that it's quite a bit. So that's the number that we want to work with. So we'll get out of run mode into design mode. We'll add 3 labels right here. First of all, let's set a border. Very good. All right, so there's 1, copy paste 2, copy and paste 3. Very good. I'll select all 3 of these. I'll right click and I'll align these horizontally or distribute them horizontally. Make sure they're centered. Very good. All right, for hours, we're going to use that decimal time value, that variable there. And we're going to divide that by 60. So it's given us a decimal value. I wanted to show you the step-by-step calculations, and we'll deal with these decimal here in a bit. So for the minute, we're going to use a function called mod. What mod does is it gives us the remainder of a division operation. So the first thing that we'll throw in here is the decimal value, the decimal time, and the divisor will be 60. So far this number here, this 323 minutes is 5 hours, 23 minutes. And then over here for seconds, what we're going to do is we're going to use that decimal time again, but we're going to use the split function. And the split works on strings. So inside this numeric value, we're going to have a decimal point or a dot. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the right side of the decimal place. So we'll do a split, and then the separator will be the dot. Okay. Now I want to make sure that this decimal here is interpreted as a string. So I'm going to wrap the text function around that just to make sure. And split is going to give us an array or a table value. So let's select this whole thing. We'll go down in the coding window, select the whole thing, and you see it says table. So that split gives us a table or multiple values. Now a label can't handle that. It can only handle a single value of a string or number that can be displayed within that label. Let me show you real quick. If I add a drop-down list here and I use that same expression, the split on the decimal time, and I hold down Alt and I look at the values, see the 323 there? And it gives me the rest of it. Okay, so that's what the split does. It breaks things down, given a separator, in this case a dot or decimal place. And it gives us 2 values. Now, if there were more dots in there, it would give us more values. If there were 2 dots, it would give us 3 values. But for a number like this, we're only going to have 1 decimal or one dot. So there's only going to be 2 values. So I'm going to remove this drop-down list real quick. All right, so this is going to give us 2 values. Now, there's a function that gives us 1 value out of multiple. And we're looking for the second part of this array or this table, or the last one out of the 2. So we're going to use the function last. Now we can reference the result. You see that? We reference the result out of that table. So it's pretty much a table with one column called result. If you use an aggregate type of function, a lot of times it will give you a result value from that. All right, so we'll take that result. Now we're gonna multiply this by 60, since there are 60 seconds in a minute. And then we're gonna need to divide this by 100. Okay, now why is it that I do that? Well, I remember from algebra, when you multiply fractions, so we're dealing with fractions here. To demonstrate my thought process behind this, I'm going to make use of some labels here. And I always like to give my labels borders here. And let's create 4 of these guys. Okay, so I'll move it here to the side to keep it separate from all this other stuff. All right, so yeah, so I remember in algebra class, you wanted to multiply a fraction. Let me try to get an x here. Well, you know what? I just saw it at the top. Let's use a cancel. So this is a multiplication sign. Okay. Let's also add some lines here. So in order to get at some shapes here, this might be easiest. Actually, I don't see a line here. Let's go and add. Let's type in a line. There we go. Horizontal line. Boom. Copy and paste that. There we go. We can just add a label, and we can type an equal sign here, and we can make that font really big. There we go. Equals. We have a number that changes, and that number is going to be this decimal value. Okay, this 0.46. Now, we really don't care about all this other stuff. We're just trying to get at the first 2 decimal places because we're dealing with decimals that a decimal numeric value that goes up to 100, but when it goes to 100, it just, when this 99 becomes 100, this 3 becomes a 4. Okay, so we're looking from 0 to 99. Okay, so and in a fraction, when that 99 becomes 1 or 100, 100 over 100, as you know in math, if the 2 values are equal, that is a 1. It's a whole value. Thus, it would be on the left side of the decimal. Okay, so let's get at this value here, this 0.46. So we'll grab this and we'll just throw it into this label here. Okay, just imagine for a moment that this is just 46. Okay, we're dealing with a decimal value. Okay, so this value down here in this label is going to be 100. Okay, this value over here in this label, let's click on the text. There we go. And let's just put an x in here. This is an unknown. A lot of times x is used in algebra to represent an unknown value, like solve for x. Okay. So, and this value down here, we're trying to convert a decimal value into a time value, which is based on 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. Okay. So let's click on text, and then over here we will say 60. Now, what I remember from algebra, in order to figure out the value of this fraction multiplied by this fraction, is you take this value and you multiply it by this and do a little equal sign, and then you take this value multiplied by this value. Okay, so I'm going to create another label here, and I'm going to make it much bigger, like this. Okay, so instead of an equal sign, all right, so in this case, it would be 46 multiplied by 60 equals x 100, or x times 100. There we go. And in algebra, how you dealt with this, how you would evaluate this. Let me make a copy of this, paste it down below. In this case, you'd actually multiply these numbers. Okay, so 46 multiply by 60. Very good. 2760. Okay. Equals x times 100. Now, what you would do in algebra is you try to isolate this unknown value of x. And how you isolate it is you get this number, this known value of 100, and you put it on the other side of the equal sign. And in order to do that, let me make space for everything here. Let me move this up. I'll move these values up as well. Okay, all right. So how you'd isolate this x is you would divide both sides. You'd have to do the same operation on both sides of the equal sign. So you divide this by 100 and you divide this by 100. All right. So 2760 divided by 100, that's 27.6. Of course, we should have been able to do that in our head, right? 7.6. And this be x divided by 100. And because we did it on the other side, we can get rid of the 100. Okay? So this unknown value that we're looking for is 27.6. Now look at this. Up here, 28. It rounded up. Isn't that cool? Right? So that's the reasoning behind. Let me show this here. Multiply by 60, divide by 100. Okay, so there's our 60. We multiplied by 60, and then we divided by 100. Okay, isn't that fun? We're geeking out here, doing some math. All right. So I'll just leave this here. All right. All right, so the seconds portion, so if you look at the hour, so this is easy. Okay, we divided by 60. The whole number out of this, to get 5, that's our hour. The whole number out of this, the 23, is our minute. That was easy. So click on text. I don't know why it keeps defaulting to tooltip. That's annoying. We did the mod. Okay. To divide, we divided by 60 here. Well, mod divides by 60, but the mod is going to give us the remainder, which is the 23 minutes. The seconds is a little more complicated, as you see here. Okay. So I'm going to make this stuff right here a little smaller. It doesn't need to be so big. Maybe do like 40. There we go. Okay. All right, so we need to actually turn this into a usable value over here, 28. All right, in our calculation, there's a few more things that we need to figure out about this. Okay, so number one, let's add in a label here. And I'm going to try to keep all of these over here. Okay, so adding another label, give it a border. Okay, so what I want to know, what I want to figure out, and the answer to this I want to put in this label here. What I want to find out and what I'm going to put into this label is the answer to this question. Is there a decimal in this value? Because how we'll deal with it is going to be different if there is a decimal or not. Okay. So the value in question is this decimal time, okay? It's our context variable. That is changed when the user changes this slider, okay? So we're gonna put that in there, decimal time. Now, we can use a find function within PowerApps to see if there is a period inside the number. Find, okay? So look at the tool tip here. Find text, we are looking for a dot, not a comma, dot, very good. Inside of this decimal time. Now, the decimal time is actually a numeric value. So the find, it works on text, a string. So we're going to change the decimal time into a string of character values or text. So we'll use text. So if you don't know, the find function is gonna tell you the ordinal position or the index of the string you were trying to find within another string. Okay, so we're looking for a period. So it found that period, that dot, in the second position within the string. So it changed this value to a string, and it looked for this dot inside it. So the 5 is 1, the dot is number 2. So it's going to return a true. So guess what it returns if it doesn't find a dot in that value? So if we change the slider value and it was exactly 5 minutes, and no seconds, just 5 minutes. There's not going to be a dot, okay? So in that case, that find is going to return the value of blank. Let's wrap this find function with an IsBlank function. The IsBlank is going to return a true or false. Look at that, false. So it's going to return a Boolean value if it's blank. Now, I want to know if there's a dot. So if there's a dot, I want it to say true. If there's not a dot, I want it to say false. So I'm going to use the bang operator right here. Okay. Now, if you like the more of a wordy or verbose syntax, you can use the keyword not. You could do that if you're, say, familiar with Visual Basic as opposed to JavaScript, C#. Okay. So that's the same thing, either not or a bang operator, exclamation point. Okay. So true. In fact, I think what I'll do here is I'll add a little label and I'll say is there a decimal place value? There we go. So it's very clear. Okay. So we need to know that. So the next thing we need to know, we need to do another operation before we get to this number, before we do this math. So I'm going to move this label down here, do a copy and paste. Okay, I'm going to do a check at this first label. So right now we do this multiply by 60, divide by 100. I'm still going to do that, but I'm going to do that in the label below. Okay. And I want to work with this value here, this decimal time. So the first thing I want to do is I want to reference this little Boolean value. So it's label 11. I'm going to rename this label because if I refer to a label in a formula, I like to name it. So label is their decimal. Okay, so we'll grab that label there. All right, so here I'm going to say if that label.text equals, if that label is false, so if this is a whole number, let's say this is 5.0, there might be a dot there, but there's no value after it. That would give us a false. So in that case, we're going to return a 0. And for now, I'm just going to say decimal time. Okay, so instead of this decimal time, remember this stuff we did in this other label here, which was all the split and the last and everything. This value here, that's what we want. So instead of decimal time, we'll use that value. Okay. So you see this 3927, 3927. Okay, so it's the decimal place. Now I only want the first two characters. In this case, the 5.39, I don't care about this other stuff. And in most cases, we're not dealing with a bunch of decimal places. The decimal value with how many minutes that have elapsed, and perhaps there's a decimal. But let's write the formula just in case there's a lot of decimal places. So we'll deal with that regardless, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the left function, and I'm just going to grab the first two characters. And there we go, okay? And I'm going to make another copy of this label. So we got a lot of labels all over the place, right? All right, lots of labels. So now we can reference the value up here. Let's call this label SecondsDecimal. There we go. So inside this, we're going to reference the text value out of that label. So there's 39. What if it is 5.1? Well, we just don't want 1. We want 10. We want that other 0. Or if it's the 5.12, we want that to be a 12. Okay, so let's do another if statement. If the length of this, if it's 1, let's add a 0. Text, and we'll splice together a 0 within that string. Otherwise, we will just use whatever's in there. And we know there's only going to be 2 characters in there because we did a left 2. Okay. All right, very good. All right, at this point, I think we're good. So we are going to reference this value here, label to two-digit second. Okay, then over here, I'm going to use it here. We need to reference the text property. Now that is a string value, so we need to convert that to a numeric value by using the value function. And that is going to give us how many seconds? In this case, there is our decimal value. Now we need to sort of truncate these decimal values. So in this case, 5 minutes, well, this is 5.3 minutes, okay? So hours is 0, minutes is 5, and the seconds is 23. So how do we get rid of these decimal places here? So let's make copies of these guys. And it sort of bothers me, the spacing. Okay, very good. So we'll make a copy of these 3, paste them down here. Okay. So how you get rid of the decimal places if you don't care about them is use a truncate function. And that is trunc. So we'll use it there. So 0 hours. Trunc on that, that's 5 minutes. Trunc there. All right, so there we go. In fact, I might be inclined to make a few more labels here. If you guys aren't annoyed by how many labels I use in here, I'm just trying to make sure everything is very clear and spelled out. That's why I'm doing all this, to show you every single step. Hour, minute, let's make it bold. There we go. And let's even make an underline. How about that? So it looks like a header here. And in this case, I think I'm gonna go borderless on those guys. Okay. So this is what we've been waiting for all along, is let's put a label here that gives us the full value. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this a gray, maybe not so dark, a light gray. And in this case, LBL hour, LBL minute, and LBL second. So for this guy, we'll say LBL hour text, LBL minute text, LBL second text. Very good. Now, what you might want are 2 digits in there. So, and how we do that is we use the text function, and we will use, not pound signs, 0. 0's there. So this is a little annoying. We're going to have to make this, so the text property of this label is a text value. And this text function is expecting a numeric value here. So in order to see what I did here is I did the text, try to format it with these 2 zeros, and that's not going to work. What we need to do is convert it to a numeric value by using value. See, now we've got the two zeros in there. Let me just zoom in here. There we go. All right, so we need to do the same thing here. So we'll convert this to value. We'll go back and we'll add in text. And just to make sure it's a 2-digit. There we go. And we'll do the same thing for the second. Very good. All right, so that's what we've been looking for the whole time. Right there. So let's make this bigger. There we go. Look at that. All right, so this slider is meant to be a full day. If you remember at the beginning, we set this up to be, so these are seconds. So there are 86,400 seconds in a day. So if I move that all the way up, look at that, 24 hours. Let's move it down here about the middle. We should have about 12 hours. So see this 353. These are the two numbers we dealt with at the very beginning. So let's change this to, let's try to change it to 353. And what you can do is this slider has focus. With your keyboard, you can move this up. So 353. It's going to take a little while. Come on, 353.10. So yeah, 353.10. So that should be 5 hours, 53 minutes, and 6 seconds. There we go. So it works. It works. It works. All right. So what you need is the formula. So you don't want to add all these labels and sliders and everything. You've got a value. Let's say we've got a variable or something. Obviously, we do have a value, a variable that holds a value that you want to use, which is a number that holds amount of minutes. Okay, so this number right here is amount of minutes. And if it's got a decimal, hey, those decimals are the seconds, okay? So we're going to move forward with that assumption. So I am going to move this up, make a copy of it. And you know what? I'm going to try to make this a little smaller here. Let's make it like 20. Move these guys down a little bit there. Yeah, why not? Okay. In fact, I could probably lasso all of them. There we go. I just move them down a little more. All right. So what I'm going to do in this is it's going to be a single expression that you can copy and paste into any application, and it's going to give you that string, and you just need to give it a value. Okay, that value being like a variable. Okay, all right. So let's do that. All right. So I believe this is a good opportunity to use the with function within PowerApps, and the with function allows you to specify value or a set of values at the top, and then you got an expression down below. It could be a very large, complex function like we're about to experience here. So what's good about this is once I create this expression, I'm going to put this expression in the description of the video, so you can just go down there, copy, paste, use it. Okay, let's open the code window up and get to work. So with, and then we'll end the function with that parenthesis. And what we're going to say here, so we'll say with decimal value. Now we already have a context variable, and I already forgot what it was. It's decimal time. There we go, decimal time. Now we'll need to provide our values inside of curly braces for the with function. There we go. Now let's just use this format. I like to format my stuff here within the coding window. It makes it easier to read most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time. All right, well, let's get at, so instead of having a label here, let's get at the underlying. Okay, so we'll actually use this. Paste that there. Let's go get the minute. So the hour and minute, very simple and easy, right? It's the second that's going to be hairy and complicated to work with here. So, so place that with that. Very good. All right, so something we definitely should do right now is, since we've used this with statement here, and let me put this on a separate line like this. What's great about using a with is, you see how we have decimal time here and decimal time here? Is this allows us to have this single value here. Now, you could copy and paste the expression, the full expression that I create here in the next few moments, and I can put it in the description. You can copy and paste it in your program, but instead of changing decimal time 15 times in the expression, you just change whatever variable you're using here, and then throughout the rest of the expression within the width, we could just reference this decimal value. So it doesn't matter what you're using in your application. You just replace this one value, and then this value is being used throughout the rest of the expression. So the with statement is great for that. Decimal value there. All right, so this part, the second part, is going to be complicated because if you take a look, we've used a few labels here, including this one on the side, to get at this 0,6. We have quite a few different operations that we need to do, all within this one expression. So we've broken it down into several labels, and we're going to put it all in one right now. I'm going to separate this out a little bit, provide a little bit of space. So we're going to work on this part. It looks simple right now. So we're getting at this label text, which is this label second, so it's this value. So let's copy that, and we will put that right here. Okay, and because we had to use the value before, because we had we were referencing the text property of a label, which is a string. And we have a value here, and the trunc actually turns a numeric value, so we don't have to use this value function again. Okay. So there we go. So right now, if we look at it, it should still work, okay? But the thing is, we don't want to reference this right here, okay? Because we don't have to be dependent upon a label control, or any control, because chances are either you don't have the controls, and if you do, they probably have different names anyway, okay? So just providing space. Okay, so now this does still work. Now we just need to replace this 2-digit second, which is right here. Okay, so we will copy this. There we go. And we'll go up here and we will paste this here. And so this is an if statement. What is being referenced is this label seconds decimal, and it is referenced 3 times. Okay, and whenever you reference something like this, we could use another with statement and not have to reference something 3 times, or that 3 times, especially that the thing that's referenced more than once is an expression in itself. That's a good place to use a with. Okay, so this label SecondsDecimal.text, which is this right here. Okay, so let's copy that. We'll go back here. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll use with, and we'll use the ending parenthesis there. All right. Okay, with. Now the first parameter of the with will be a type record, which means you can have multiple values. We need a curly brace to do that. Okay. And what we'll say here, we just need to have a name of like a variable, like we did up here with decimal value. And let's call this seconds decimal. Okay. And what we will use instead of that is this label .text. Okay, so now every time that we reference the label.text down here, we could just use that with variable. Do need a comma after the curly brace. So you could say the with statement takes 2 parameters. Well, the first one is of type record. That's why we have the curly braces, like right here. But you notice we have the comma right after that. And then we have an expression. Okay, so this should work fine. So let's get out of the coding window, and you see that it's still working. Now, as you can see here, we are referencing yet another label. So label seconds decimal. So we need to go into that control here, and we need to take all this. We just do it one step at a time. Otherwise, it's just too complicated, right? So just paste that there instead of that control. So then this expression references another control. So Because it's only referenced once, I think what we could do is just go in here and we'll grab this. And instead of having this control.text, we will just paste that. There we go. Instead of, we had to compare this Boolean value with the string of false, because again, we were dealing with a text property of a label. So now we don't need to compare that, because this IsBlank is going to give us a true or false value. Okay. So if it is blank, we're just going to return a 0. It's not blank. We're going to go to the left and we are going to grab 2 characters there. Because this is an if statement, I like to break down the 3 parts of an if statement across, make sure that the 3 parts are on different lines. And then the ending parenthesis of that if is on a different line. So here we go. Okay, so this should still work. This should still be good. And again, we want to make sure we're not referencing any controls at all. Okay. Now I do notice that we're still referencing decimal time. So instead of that, we're going to reference the decimal value here and here. What's great about PowerApps is that if you select something, it's going to show you, it's going to highlight everywhere else it is. So it's being used 4 times here. And then this value is being referenced 3 times down here. And if I select this value, which I don't want to have anywhere else, I don't see anything else highlighted, so it looks good. What I'm going to do now, I just selected everything and copied it just in case I don't like the formatting of this. I'm going to hit format text. And this is the expression. You guys tell me, do you think this is cleaner looking? It's spaced out more. I don't know that it's better though. I sort of like this better because I can see it all on one screen. I don't have to use a scroll bar. Things are spaced out a little bit, but not too much. So that's when I don't like format text. I could probably move this comma up here. I just want to make sure that things are as clean as possible. You guys copy and paste this expression now. There's a chance that this expression that I'm leaving you guys with, there might be a better, more efficient way, or somebody shares in the comments like, hey, there's a bug, or hey, this works better. So what I will do, if somebody finds something, I'll look at it. If it's better, what I'll do is I'll make sure that is in the description of the video. Okay. If you're listening to me now, I know you've made it this far. We're probably a good 30, 35 minutes into a video. I want to thank you for sticking around. Not everybody sticks around to the end, which is normal for YouTube videos. But I'd like to ask you guys a favor, especially for those of you who made it this far. And if you didn't make this far, you're not hearing me anyway, ask for this. But I would love to get more feedback on the videos that I produce. I'm looking for constructive criticism. So if there's something that I can do in these videos that would help you better, I would love to know, do I get into the details fast enough? Do I spend too much time? Do I explain stuff too much? I would love to get constructive criticism so I can improve these videos for you guys, okay?
If you found anything in this video helpful, we would really appreciate you click on that like button.
Are you feeling overwhelmed with PowerApps? Do you feel there's just so much to learn and you don't know where to start? Lucky for you, Darren has the solution. Discover how you can condense 6 months of PowerApp struggles in just 90 minutes. Click on the link below to learn more about Darren's PowerApps Deep Dive Masterclass.